Some of you might know the track, and here's the kind of latest incarnation of it. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through the track, how it was made. It's already done, so you're not going to see any live recording, but I'm going to have a little fiddle with the mix as well. I've got headphones on, so it's not going to be ideal, but better than nothing. And then we'll take it out and give it a quick little master treatment as well. So here's the track while I'm posting the link. It's already done, so
Be what you need to be. Try, but don't let the humans see.
See
Okay. Right, so while we were doing that, I made a little post up onto Facebook and told everybody I know, which will result in probably 3 people saying hello, or maybe not, maybe none. Let's see. Okay, so I was listening through that as well while we were at it. Obviously, listening with headphones on, not ideal. Usually I would have the Abbey Road studio, sort of studio simulator thing on, but I can't do that because that means you would have it on while you're listening, which is not what you want, because the whole stereo image and field would be moving as I turn my head and so on and so forth. So that's for another time. Right, so the other thing is I did notice there that the vocals seem to be getting a bit lost towards the end, and that is probably because of mixing with headphones and probably because of a couple of little tweaks I made last night. Right, so let's kick off. Obviously this song, Man from Mars, it was written a couple of years back, maybe more, I can't remember now. I had a deadline. Most people seem to think it's a decent song. It works quite well live. So I'm going to quickly explain how it came about, really. And there's not much to it. It's based around this little riff here, which is the organ riff that kicks off the whole thing. So. So, as you can see, the riff is in the key of D, but it's not a normal thing. There's a 7 below the root note of the thing, and obviously a 4th and not a 5th. So it's kind of a 7/4 kind of thing. I don't know how you would explain that in musical terms. But there it is, there's the riff. And that was written way back. You know, back in the days when you used to spend all your time making little 8-bar experiments. But I never finished it, and that's what happens a lot of the time, isn't it? So what I did was I had about a week before we were due to have our break, and I thought, right, I'm going to get something finished, must get something finished before this week is up. It was actually coming up to Ramadan. I was in Dubai, and so I had a week left. So right, what can I do? I can't write something new, I haven't got time to do that. Let's see if we can find, so, oh yeah, that old organ riff, I always like that. So we kicked off with the organ, and that is actually the only organ part in the other part in the song is a little synth riff. So yeah, after that, obviously we've got a guitar that matches the organ part when everything comes in. So let's have a quick listen to that. So yeah, let's have a look at the guitar on its own very quickly. If I can remember the keys that I have assigned to all the mixers. Here we are, yeah, because I've just changed them all and I haven't changed them for this. So there's the guitar somewhere. Oh. One of these. Oh no, they're the chorus ones. Here it is. Yeah. Okay, so now I found the guitar. Yeah, that's the Variax in Telecaster mode, and it's got the UAD Marshall JMP 2203 on it, which to me sounds very much like a real live guitar. I love it. So that runs. Oops, press the wrong key there. That runs all the way through the track. Here's the chorus. As with a lot of the things, the guitar itself was kind of done on the fly. I might have, yeah, you can see I think I copied those parts there, but other than that it'll have just been played through in one take and then maybe chopped around a little bit afterwards, because obviously drums, bass I'm programming, and keyboards are programmed, obviously. So for me, with the guitar stuff, I don't want it to be too accurate and too nice. So anyway, we'll get back to that. So what we've got then, so we've got, I don't know why the basses group keeps opening up when I'm doing the guitar, the organ there. That must be something I set up ages ago, and I can't remember it. So we've got the guitar and the organ running together in the riff. And as you probably can tell, hopefully you can tell from the streaming, I'm watching it on the iPad on the left, and it seems like it's still all working. As you can tell, they're not too widely panned. It would be very tempting to pan those. Wrong key again. Yeah, to pan them out. So got them at 40, 45. It'd be very tempting to do that. But there is a reason why I didn't do that, and we'll get to that in a minute. All right, so just put those quickly back to where they were. So, bass. And I actually do play bass, but I haven't got a bass at the moment, so I'm still using either Omnisphere for general stuff, but this particular one is, here we are, I'll bring it up. It's the Scarby Rickenbacker, because to be honest, if I had have had a real bass player available for this, I would have wanted somebody who can play the Rickenbacker. I love the sound of it, especially for this kind of thing. And of course there's the organ as well, by the way. That's the organ that's playing the main riff. Right, so the bass, let's have a listen. So let's take all the processing off that. Just so that we can hear it with nothing at all, just how the bare sound. So there, inserts off, and then the actual channel itself, which is over here somewhere. I suppose it's easier if I play it, isn't it? And we will see it. Oh yeah, this is because I've changed all my okay, there it is. So I thought I had some processing on the actual channel. Okay, so I'm gonna, I think we will do that now, because I was messing around with this the other day. So that's the bass as it is. That's the bass as it is. So what I've been doing recently with the bass is I've been using this UAD Ampeg. It's actually, there's a couple of them, but this one and one of the other ones. Here it is. Not the classic, the SV-TVR Beauty. And it just seems to, even though that's a very real sounding bass in the first place, it just seems to add another level of realism to it. And not just because it's a VST bass, by the way, and because it's samples, obviously. But I used this on a real bass that somebody came and recorded the other day, and it just sounded fantastic. So in fact, what I'm going to do is load up the track preset of Nick's channel that we used the other day. So there it is, bass track preset. I think it's that one. So that's basically the EQ and what I did with the real bass. It was a precision that he had, beautiful sounding. If you're listening, Nick, or if you're ever listening in the future, yeah, great sounding bass. the growl, and I don't know, there's something about that for me that I really like. It's a bit bright. So there we've got what amounts to a decent-ish bass sound to me. It's probably not necessary to put the CLA bass on there. It's just that it's a habit I've had for a long time. So now that we've got the Ampeg there, this one might not be necessary. But for the sake of walkthrough and everybody, all one of me having to go through it all again, we'll just leave it as it is for now. So the important thing now with this is obviously you need to hear a bit of the drums. So the drums, here we go. This is the third reincarnation of the drums. So this is Superior Drummer 3. I've been with Superior Drummer since the very first version and love it. This is version 3. It's the actual default kit. Should I say the default library? I've got I think I've got every library they bring out. I love them. But this particular one, so that's the basic sounds. Obviously this is based on something, but I will have messed around with it quite a lot. So that's the basic drums. I do have, on Superior, I do have the hi-hat set up to be controlled by modulation. So as if you're pressing, you know, the opening and closing the hi-hat pedal. I don't think we've used a lot of that on this. And all the drums are quantized. Let's get into the chorus, have a listen. Pretty live sounding. I keep pressing the wrong key here. I've got to swap these keys around because it looks more logical and it's actually making less sense. Right, so drums, and we've got my usual Neve preamp. Always have that on a drum bus. And then in this particular case, the Elysia Empressor, which I love, for drums. So that's that, and then the other part of this is, of course, a summing of the drums and bass. So this is why I was saying it's important we go through these two first. So let's bring the bass back up. So what I've done here is I've got the distressor over the drums and bass, and as you can see it's acting quite heavily on those, which I don't think many people would really want that to happen. It's heavy. Maybe not as heavily as that, but there you can see with the mix that there's not all of it being heard. It's a parallel kind of situation, so if I had that mix button fully to the right, then you would hear nothing but the okay, let's do it. This is just obviously, who knows who's going to listen to this right now live? Probably nobody, but maybe one or two people will watch it in playback. So, you know, and we don't know who. Could be somebody who's just starting out. It could be somebody who's an absolute expert. So we'll do a little bit for everybody. So parallel compression, well, it's simple. Here's the signal. So if I pull it all to the right, you're hearing the full treatment that's being given to those two together, and not really desirable in like that, because one will completely knock the other one out of place in various places. If I have it completely dry like this, then you will not hear any compression at all. Because I've got automation on the bass channel, as you can see there, I can't just adjust the volume here. So what I'm going to do is just pull that level down a little bit here. Of course, we may have to adjust that later. Right, so let's bring in, let's go, we've got drums, bass, we've listened to the intro organ riff, and we've listened to the intro guitar. So let's just have a listen to those together. Yeah, I've just realised, by the way, I've got my little GW Mixcentric on the overall bus here. I've forgotten all about that. I just like to do that sometimes. I wouldn't normally mix with it on, actually. But I like to do it just to give me an idea of what the track might sound like once it's been mastered and finished. So as you can see, I've just got it on very subtly. So I should probably turn that off. The problem is, if I turn that off now, everything's going to sound a tiny little bit more dull, but it'll definitely be turned off before I export, because I will do my mastering externally in Wavelab. So let's leave it on for now. Just have to remember to turn it off when we export. Okay, so what I do have here is my Waves WM Plus. I've got a kind of a little preset of my own that I made here, which is for YouTube, funnily enough, and they have just changed their standard. Not that that is really vitally important, that's not what this is for. This is really just to give me an idea. Plus, it also is a great help when you're rushing through, and yeah, we all know about gain staging, of course we do, but sometimes things just get on top of you, and sometimes just, you know, the master levels end up being too high. Not a huge problem, but should be contained. So what I like to do is use this to trim the master levels down a little bit. Yeah, you can see the difference there with the GW on and off. I don't know whether I should leave that off or on now, I'm not sure. It's certainly adding a little bit of bright. Let's just maybe roll it back a little bit and leave it on. Okay, so we've done the drums and bass, we've got the guitars, the main guitar and the main organ. We've got another little synthy riff that goes over that. I do particularly love the sound there, and it was one of those little kind of creative ideas. Obviously, it's a mini Moog from Arturia, the Arturia collection. Just love it. A bit high on the processor sometimes, but if used sparingly. And there's the sound, which you wouldn't believe, would you? But once you get up in the octave. Here it is. See, when it's high up like that. Love that sound. It's all legatoed, so these notes that cross over will make it legato, and it makes it sweep around a little bit. And on top of that was the treatment that I did. So let's have a quick look at that. Wrong button again. Okay, so we've got a stereo delay. Let's hear it without. So basically what I've done is made the delays a massive pan to one side, and that way, you know, you get that whole kind of mystical thing that it's spreading across the mix. You're not quite sure where it's coming from. So let's hear those together. Here we go. We got bass, we got the little mini synth, we got the organ riff, and the main guitar. All right, so that's the verse. Obviously we're going to come up into the chorus any second, so let's have a listen to the chorus. Now, like that, you can hear that the organ part is all fifths. There's no thirds whatsoever there. Guitar will be the same. To keep that kind of, you know, edgy, rocky feel. The drums, yep, the snare will pick up to full velocity. Of course, you won't be able to hear it unless I unmute it. Here we go. So that's what you're getting from the snare, as opposed to when it was first in, which is just down a little bit. So it's still got some smack, but not quite as much as in the chorus. Now here's the big one. So, because I want to get down to the vocals really as soon as possible. So here's the big one. We've got two more guitars that come in the chorus. And remember I was saying about, well, I could have easily panned the organ and the main guitar, but I didn't want to. And there's a reason for that, is because these do this. Here, just listen to this on their own. So they sound very thin and nasty, but when you put it all together, you get this. So simple really, it's an old trick. I've always loved the sound of two guitars panned left and right back to the days of 1980s, Judas Priest and all that. And the first time I ever went into the studio myself, I did indeed do that, you know, because I was the only guitar player. We had a keyboard player, Tim Lofthouse, fantastic, Andy Jones on drums and Steve Levitt on bass. And the first thing I did was say, can I play two guitars, one left, one right? And ever since then, I know it's an old trick now, but the other thing, of course, to know about this is that keep things central for the verses. Well, not central because the vocals are going to be in the center, but keep things moderate, let's say, until you get to the chorus, and then if you can widen things up, you get a big boost, as it were. So let's put that all together so you can hear the whole instrumentation. There's a couple of effects, by the way, we should probably have a quick listen to. There you go. A few little bits and bats like that. I like to just split them left and right so I can play with them separately if I need to. So here we go. Let's get the bass back in. We've got all the organ, guitars, everything in. Let's just play a little bit of the verse into the chorus. Okay, so yeah, before we move into the all-important but not very interesting vocals, let's just quickly have a listen to a couple of things there. So first of all, you noticed how that expanded massively when the chorus came in, which is really nice and satisfying to hear. I've got a tiny little bit of automation lift up on the bass for the choruses as well. Should have probably done a lot more automation on this track, but hey. And then there's little things that I wanted to point out, like at the end of the chorus, listen to the drums and bass here. Now little things like that. There we are, drums and bass. Obviously these are all done after the fact, so you know I would feel like, okay, I need to put a little something in there just to remind people, you know. So you've got a China cymbal and a couple of snares, and then we gone into the bass and we programmed so it just adds that interest, those kind of things, rather than just having the drum track plodding on, rather than just having the bass track plodding on. It just adds that little bit of interest to the whole thing, you know. And these are the things as well that when you come to playing live later on, that really, you know, everybody will kind of raise their eyebrows. Somebody might even start to play that part. And off you go, you know, it's good. Okay, so let's move on. Vocals, right? Well, vocals. I think the interesting thing here is, believe it or not, this vocal was one take. I got to the end of the time that I'd kind of allotted myself, and I just said, right. So there's a lot of tuning gone on the backing vocals, but the main vocal here is pretty much as it was.
Here in this crowded space.
So there's two of those.
Here in this crowded space.
And as you can tell just by listening to that, the timing's not very good. There's different phrasing, and these are all things that you would do properly. Probably if it was your song, and you know, or if I was recording your song, who knows? It depends on time. We always seem to rush through vocals, don't we? So the actual vocal itself, this was before I got my beautiful Townsend Sphere, which is what I'm using now for voice. So these are just recorded. I think this was the Nord. Is it Nord? Not Nord. Rode. The Rode NT2. Which I still loved, to be honest. I still love it. But the Townsend Sphere, although it's much more expensive, just does lots of other nice things as well. We'll go into that another time. I've got that scheduled for a little bit of a walkthrough-y thing later on. Right, so let's find the lead vocal, just the main vocal, and see what's happened to it.
Here in this crowded space, alone, something different about your face. Time is the friend you know.
So as you can see, there's really not a lot. Again, it's the wonderful GW. It's just a one button fix for everything, this one. And yeah, not really done anything glamorous. I've got all sorts of big vocal chains that I use for other things. And yeah, on this track, which was one of my favorites, I never got around to replacing the GW. So there's a delay. And that, and quite often I would have the delay ducked. There's some tools to do that now that make things much easier, but in this case it's just straight.
Here.
Then moving across the vocal chain, because this is all quite important, we have Essence, which is my, or at least at this point was my go-to de-esser. As you can see there,
Something different about your face.
picking up the S's. We've got the Fairchild UAD. And then we've got yet another, so that's all grouped together with all the other bits of vocals, which we'll get to in a minute. And then we've got Arvox and Soothe, which is a new addition. And I think that is the reason why some of the vocals are not quite sticking out. So have a listen to Soothe. It's interesting what it does. So what I can do is basically Soothe. It's one of those things, a bit of an enigma. It's a bit difficult to describe. But basically, it's like for me, I'd call it like a million band intelligent EQ compressor. So it'll listen to the whole signal. You can tell it where to look and how much to act, and it will get rid. But it does much more than that. Obviously, that's a simple way to put it, and somebody else would probably explain it better. This entire video is not only about this plugin, so you can see what it's doing. If you want to have a listen to what it's actually taking out, so you can just about hear that it's taking out some of that harshness, although the old saying, you can't polish a turd, is quite apt for this because it's not a very nicely recorded vocal at all. Not a great performance either, to be fair on myself. It was rushed, but it's still. So what Soothe does, it's very good for spoken voices as well. I wish I could have it on the mic that I'm using right now, to be honest. But it just gets rid of those unwanted frequencies, I suppose, is a better way, or a simple way to explain.
Here in this crowded space.
So underneath that, we've got the vocal harmony parts. Let's unmute those.
Here in this crowded space.
And again, pressing the wrong button. Again, we will have a look.
Here in this crowded space.
And what I did with those was sung the first thing that came into my head, and then I went mad with the Cubase Vari audio and just tuned everything almost to, like, you know, roboticness.
Here in this crowded space, alone, something different about your face.
And to be honest, that doesn't bother me because it's supposed to be a slightly kind of futuristic sounding, you know, lyric anyway. And on top of that, once you have the actual main vocal in there,
Here in this crowded space.
it's so annoying, isn't it? I'm listening to it now, and I can hear the here carrying on for a little bit too long at the beginning there. On one of those, I don't know which one it is. Let's have a quick look. It'll be one of these. It's not that one. Probably that one. If we play both those together. Yeah, so what I would do there, I would put them into a part like that, and there you can see straight away. And this just shows that the whole thing was done in a little bit of a hurry just to get it finished. Okay, so that's, you know, that's sorted that out, I think. Let's have a listen. Okay, maybe we'll crossfade. There you go. And I don't know how many more of those kind of things that I have missed. There's one. Oop. Now that one I'm not going to copy it. What I'm going to do is just pull it over a bit, because the lead vocal's there. So even these, you know, and again, those of you that have done a lot of singing, either professionally or in the studio or on stage, to be honest, you'll know that if you're singing a big block of backing vocals, you don't want everybody singing S's. So quite often you would just, you know, you would sing, if the lead vocal had an S at the end, you would miss that S off your backing vocal. And the same thing kind of applies in the studio as well. So, you know, let me think of it again. If I was singing tomatoes, I would sing tomato and let the lead vocal sing the S, because you do not want a big bunch of S's all together.
Time is the friend, you know.
And of course, that's something that we come up against in studio stuff a lot, but also live. Right, so I mean, even two S's at once, to me, is too much.
Here in this crowded space.
As you can see, the word space. What I've done is I've cut down the S's on all the backing vocals there. It's still not great though. Okay, so that's the backing vocals for and the lead vocal for the verses. It's a very simple melody. And the chorus was, well, I need a chorus, I need a big chorus. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? You know, and so what we do is I shouted out, oh no. I can hear that actually distorting. I don't know what that is. Let's have a listen.
Oh no!
Quite possibly it is. Sorry, I just have a message I have to answer. That will be the actual input that's distorting there. So we'll have a quick look at that and just quickly reply to this. Just on YouTube Live, won't be long. Okay. Right. Yeah, so let's have a quick look at that. As I said, the chances are it's probably distorted on input because yeah, it doesn't look great, does it?
Oh no! Could it be that you've gone too far?
So what we've got here is we have, again, we've got the GW, we've got essence, we've got it going into smooth, soothe. Let's have another listen.
Oh, could it be that you've gone too far?
And there is a little slapback delay there, which is coming from the GW.
Could it be that you've gone too far?
There's also something else causing that. Let's have a listen. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to say, yeah, the time cube, which is doing kind of a little slapback trick.
Oh no! Could it be that you've gone too far?
So that's just to give that wideness to the vocal. Once again, I think if I stopped now and redid all these vocals, the whole track would probably be much, much better. But hey, maybe one day. So here's the little vocal trio. They're all singing totally in unison. There was no need for harmonies here because the whole chorus is so big with everything else. I didn't want massive harmonies. And then I've got a left and a right doing identical things to the center one, but with deliberately slack timing, because I wanted you to be able to hear that, you know, there's more than one person singing here.
Oh no, could it be that you've got? Oh no, could it be that you've gone too far?
So yeah. So, and then at the end there we have a little delay for the actual Man from Mars line. Here it is.
The man from Mars.
So that, there's a few ways that that could have been done, but what I've done there obviously is created a track. I've just duplicated the tracks and put the little delays on them. There's lots of ways that could have been done. It could have been a send to a delay with automation, but just in this particular case, just quickly duplicate the three chorus tracks which are here, duplicate them here so the panning's all the same, and then just change the delay setting so that it does whatever it was that I wanted it to. Yeah, so just quickly reply. I'm just on YouTube Live on my channel. There's nobody there, but I might as well finish. So we're getting towards the end now. Let's just hear all those vocally bits with the rest of the music. So.
Time is a friend, you know. Space, your companion from lifetimes ago. Oh no, could it be that you've gone too far?
All right, so that sounds actually all right to me. Obviously, when we listened to those voices earlier on, there was a bit of distortion going on. Quick drink of water. Obviously there was a bit of distortion going on, but hey, again, you know, my excuse is this track was rushed. So the only other things, there's a couple of little things to point out. All right, so we've got the guitar solo here, which again, I think this was pretty much one take. Oh no, look, there's a few little bits that have been chopped around there. I think that's an identical, I don't think there's two. Oh, okay, that one's just the delays. So yeah, let's have a look what I did with the guitar here. I'm a big fan of Michael Schenker. Anybody who knows me will know that. And I've got a little preset of mine for guitar rig, which basically, it's basically, you know, pushed around Schenker's setup, and there's kind of a I don't know how to explain it really. It's kind of a wah-wah off key, off sensor. Have a listen. I was looking at the wrong one. Let's try the actual one that's doing whatever. Also quite roughly played, isn't it? Never mind. And yeah, so we put those back where they were. So that's just basically quite a lot of Marshall, overdrive, bit of wah-wah to take it just off center of that, you know, that EQ, that little notch. And then there's a group for the guitars, which I think I missed earlier on. So yeah, the SSL UAD version for this particular case, tend to use that a lot on the guitars. I forgot to mention earlier on as well, of course, there's an SSL over the rhythm guitars, or the first guitars, shall we call them. So let's have a quick look back at those. Yeah. So that's actually covering the organ and the guitar as a group. So yeah, and then on the chorus guitars, yes. I've got the API 2500. This is the Waves version. Awesome little piece of kit. And then, as you've just seen, there's the SSL there on the guitar. So, is there anything else that I've missed? Well, I don't think so. I think it's a shame, because this is kind of this is the place where if people were there asking questions, I could go into details, and I wasn't expecting it, and so therefore I'm not disappointed by it, which is fine. But we're nearly at the end now, so let's just finish off. There's one other little bit that you may find of interest, and don't forget that this will be archived, so I should imagine there might be a few people listening to this after the fact. Unfortunately now it'll be too late to ask any questions. So just want to find the little reverse bit that leads into the second verse. Here it comes. So this is after the break. So you have a little, again, it's an old trick. You put a big delay, reverse the dry vocal first, reverse the dry vocal, then put a big delay or reverb on it, so you get the reversed vocal with the reverb and delay. Record that and then spin it round the other way, so you get the whole thing. The main vocal is now the right way round, but the reverbs and delays are all coming before the vocal instead of after it, and this is what you get. And actually, if you heard it to the actual end. Now that sounded like it had got lost a little bit. Let's just have a... Oh, and I've got an auto panner on there as well. Obviously you can hear that. You don't need to be a genius to hear that. Here we are. So let's just push that one up a bit. Kind of needs a reverse cymbal or something in there as well to pull that in. Yeah. Anyway, but I won't be messing around with that right now. Let's just see what else there is to do. I think we're about there, to be honest. What I'm going to do is export this. And then we'll do the mastering, which I've already got stuff set up to do that, so we'll just do it in one go. I was just going to quickly look in case there was anything that I'd missed on the instrument front. I don't think there is. I've got, yeah, my addictive keys there, which is very low maintenance and very low CPU piano, but that's not in use. That will have been there from writing the guide. Contact for the Hammond and the bass, Superior Drummer for drums, the Mini Moog from Arturia. Omnisphere I don't think is actually being used in this. I probably used it for the bass originally, and then turned it off, you know, as I moved back to the proper bass. So let's have a quick scan through. I think we're about there. I think the important things with this is, you know, just the fact that it was put together very quickly, and that's not an excuse, I know, but sometimes it's not altogether a bad thing. So I think what I'll do is just quickly maybe have another look at that reverse. Yeah, I can't help feeling that I need a little reverse cymbal in there, and as it happens, I've got some reverse samples that I use, you know, for other things, so that should be quite easy. In fact, if I look on my little backup drive here, if I look, ooh, where would it be? Yeah, if I look at the old Riffs and Rays, this was all the dance music stuff, but we used a reverse cymbal quite regularly. So I'm sure there'll be a nice little reverse cymbal somewhere here. There we are. That's the one. So we'll take that in. And we need to split the channels because of the way I've got it set. And that will go somewhere like that. Let's see if that's any good. Yeah, that kind of does the job. Obviously it needs putting into the correct place, so we'll have a quick look. So it needs to stop, whoops, it needs to stop exactly where the actual vocal comes in. Let's try again. Somewhere around about there. Also needs to be quite a lot quieter.
Be what you.
And then maybe just bring it so that something like that. That'll do.
Be what you need to.
I have a vague memory of actually, don't forget to save, I have a vague memory of actually doing that before as well at some point, and then maybe taking it off for some reason because I didn't like it. But anyway, it's done now. Right, the final thing, yeah, that's the final thing I wanted to do, was just check the level of the solo guitar, because I felt it was a bit loud compared to the verses, compared to the vocal. No, actually what it is, I think the vocal itself needs to come up. So the other thing I'm noticing now, listening to that, is obviously I'm on headphones. I know I keep saying that. I keep listening to it. Is the drums and bass. So.
Crowded space, alone, something different about your face. Time is the friend.
Now we could probably go down the route of side chaining here. Again, it's something I've done a number of times. I think the point is now is this video's probably gone on for a lot longer than it should have. So maybe again that's something we can do another time if we decide to do any more of these. Yeah, so the key there, again, some of you will know already, but the key there is you would get your kick drum and you would take, there it is, you'd take a side chain from that to a compressor on the bass. So in other words, however you want to explain it, the simple fact is the kick drum would push away some of the bass signal, and usually just the bottom end of the bass signal. So when you're hearing a kick, there's not quite so much bottom end coming from the bass, and I think this would actually benefit greatly from that. Maybe not so much there, but certainly where the chorus is. Is that a wrong note there on the bass by any chance? No? There were a lot of the obvious thing to play, minor third above the D, which is actually not correct, it's like a 9th thing. Okay, I think that'll do there. So here we go, it's time to mix down. Set the locators. Let's give ourselves, yeah, there's a gap at the beginning anyway, so that's all right. And of course, just check the end. Going to give that delay plenty of chance to have gone. You notice as well there's some more solo stuff there which fades in and out underneath the vocal. Again, I'm not really sure if I actually if I like that. Maybe it shouldn't be there at all. I've moved it around a couple of times. This is just habit that I'm doing right now, is just closing all the little windows that are still open. There's absolutely no need to do this whatsoever. It's just something I like to do before doing an export. So alright, so that's that. We go to our export, Man from Mars 2020. I'm going to put it on the desktop WAV file, 48K 24-bit, and export.